Welcome to Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and as you can see, we are out and about. This time, we're at the second annual CU Plant Swap at Solar Gratia Farms in Urbana. Lots of folks came out today to trade their house plants, their veggie starts, and we're going to meet with the organizer just a little bit later to talk about how she put all this together. But first, let's check in with our panelists to find out what goodies they were able to find today at the plant swap, and they're going to give you some tips on how to get your veggie starts and your new plants off to a great start at home. You can see here that folks are strolling around, browsing these tables, looking for new plants to take home. We've got house plants, we've got garden plants, we've got all sorts of things out here for people to enjoy. So it's a great day, sunny day, a little chilly, but it's still a great day to be outside. And we've got some of our panelists here who have been answering questions from new plant parents, and they've got a few things of their own that they've picked up. So as usual, let's have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about where you can find them in the garden. So Karen, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Karen Ruckel, and I garden over in the Peoria area.
I'm Ella Maxwell. I'm a Tazewell County Master Gardener and a horticulturist, and I'm started my vegetable garden, and right now I'm focusing on weeding.
My name is Marty Alanya, and everybody in the Midwest is focusing on weeding right now, I think. I'm a retired landscaper, and I picked out some perennials to show you a couple things about.
Hi, I'm Jen Nelson. You can find me online at groundandgrowing.com. I like all things plant related, especially houseplants and vegetables. I'm focusing on weeding as well. I really need to focus on weeding right now.
You're losing the battle at my house.
Yes, I am definitely losing the battle at my house too.
I think we're all losing the battle, if I could chime in.
Yeah, between weather and schedules just are not syncing up properly. So we'll try to remedy that this weekend.
All right, so weeds is the theme of this show. So we've got some show and tells, some things that you guys have picked up at this plant swap, can't speak. So Karen, what did you find? Tell us a little bit.
Well, I actually dug this out of my yard this morning. And so I didn't really intend to bring it to the swap, just because for me, when I share plants, I'd want to dig them up, kind of let them root and settle in rather than bringing a wilted plant. But this is a plant called a pulmonaria, lungwort is the common name. But this is a love-hate relationship for me on this plant. I really love this plant. It's a beautiful shade plant. Not a lot of critters like to nibble on it, so that's great. But the parent plant for me only lasts a couple years, and then it just plots away, so I lose it. But the wonderful thing for me is when that happens, it seems like I get all these seedlings that are very vigorous. So the leaves will all be a little bit different on the modeling or the coloration of them, but it still is a very pretty leafed plant when it's not wilted down, being dug out of the ground this morning. And it does have lovely flowers in spring. So what I wanted to talk about is, even though a plant maybe is a little persnickety, the plant keeps reproducing, and now I probably have 3 more clumps this size I need to dig out and rehome with other people. So it's digging it out. And like I said, I would have normally dug more soil with this, let it settle in the shade before I give it to somebody else. Because you always want to give a plant to somebody else for their yard.
Yeah, I'm inheriting the pulmonaria, which I'm delighted.
We had our own little plant swap here, didn't we?
We
Okay, Ella, what do you got?
Okay, I picked up a tomato here, and when you're looking for plants, I'm always looking for something that looks pretty sturdy and also something that's labeled. So this is a heirloom tomato called Green Zebra. So the fruit will actually be green striped, and it's kind of interesting. The first thing that I did is, when I'm going to plant this at home, I pinched off any of the flowers. I don't really care that it's making fruit yet, and you can see that I've had some really nice roots coming out the bottom here. So when I take this out of the plant, the pot right here, I'm going to actually kind of plant it. Yeah, I could cut off the pot.
No, I'm thinking about cutting. I was thought you were going to go to the leaves.
No, well, I was just going to just pick off a few leaves, but I'm going to plant it in the ground like this, not, bury it up to here. although I am going to cover this to make roots, but I'm going to kind of bend it over here, and then the soil line will come right here, and I'll have this nice sturdy and stocky plant. Now, I did notice that this plant was grown in the greenhouse and it had a few aphids on it. So when I take this home, I'm going to just hose them off. And then planting it outside, I think once it's out in the outdoor environment, I don't think aphids are going to be problematic with it, but I'll certainly watch it. And of course, I wouldn't want to put this in with other plants until I had that under control, and I could use some insecticidal soap. So I'm excited to get this nicely healthy, vigorous green zebra tomato.
Now tell me about the planting it on the side.
The reason that you plant it from the side is that the air, the soil, the deeper you go into the profile, the less aerated the soil is, and the plant roots require oxygen, and a lot of the percolation with moisture and everything is going to be in the top 6-8 inches. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bury part of this stem because I'm going to get more roots and I'm going to have a much sturdier tomato.
So do you have to train it? Will you have to tie it or anything?
No, yeah, it'll kind of right itself. I suppose I could put a little stake in here to help hold it, but the main thing is that I don't want to get the roots too deep down in the soil where there's not enough oxygen, or maybe poor quality, heavier clay type soil. This is all going to be in the nice garden soil that I've amended with compost. And like I said, I might strip off just a few more of these leaves. So we're set to go.
Gotcha.
You don't want to bury any of these. If you have a tomato plant you plant like this, don't bury any of the leaves. Just snip them off. You can pinch them or cut them, either way.
Okay, good.
Do you plant all of your tomatoes like that?
Not necessarily. It just depends on. This one was kind of big and a little gangly, and I think I'm going to take advantage of that.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
So what'd you grab?
All right. Karen gave me these. I love them. I can also do what I'm doing on this. Okay, I went and found some sedum. This is like Autumn Joy Sedum. It's an older variety. Gets pretty tall. This is a lot of top for these bits of roots, even this much root. So if I took these home, I would take my handy dandy pruners and I'd cut them off right about here.
That she keeps in the truck because you just never know.
Because you know, that's right. I come well armed, darling. I'll tell you what. So, and these too as well. There's a good little root here. It's a good little sturdy root. It's got a lot of root and it's got all the, but these tops, it's too much.
So you're not going to enjoy these this year.
Not
You've
really.
got these
Not
for next
really.
year.
You could root the
Yeah.
top.
Oh yeah,
if
you
you
can
wanted.
root the tops too.
You can root the tops as
Yeah.
well. Then you have this is even
A double whammy.
a double or a triple even. Okay. But this much root, and you put this in the ground, and it's going to get tired, and it's going to flop over. So, yeah.
Well, and another point too is that a lot of times you'll see in your garden a young sedum plant will come up really tall
Sure.
and leggy, and so
Yeah.
trimming it back
Yep.
in spring, just nipping it back
Yep.
a little
Right.
bit, it'll branch and be sturdier. Because when we get these summer thunderstorms
Oh,
with the
yeah.
wind, you know, sometimes that
Yeah.
snaps over these
Right.
tall plants.
Right.
Sure, and once that flowers, it's going to get too heavy and just split open and look
and
awful.
you can pinch them back and make multiple cuttings if you want, and you can do this up until about the middle of June, and after that you don't want to do any cutting back because you'll really push the flowers back too late.
Okay. So would you root those in water? Root them in soil?
No, I
Best
would
practice?
take off the leaves, and actually I usually put a cluster of them together and just bury them in the soil.
Okay.
There you go. So you've got the root end, and then you've got the tops you can root too. So actually, this turns out to be quite a fantastic clump of sedum, where at first it just looked like, you know,
Right.
a sad little group of celery there you wouldn't even pay any money for. But it turns out you got a whole bunch of plant material there. All right, and even you know, you can see when they start to root, when she puts them in the ground, they'll get these little hair-like roots, and then over the successive years, it'll grow a thick fleshy root like that, big crown. So, all right, I like sedum, and I plant sedum, and I plant different kinds. Now, here's a plant I would never plant, not ever in my life.
Not that you have an opinion on
And
it
here's
or
why.
Hey, opinions are like nostrils.
All right. Oh, you scared me, Marty.
I know.
She scared me for a
I
second.
know.
You
I
got
like to do
okay.
that. I like to scare Tanisha. She's
I thought
so
the
young.
FCC was coming
No,
for us
no,
right
no.
there.
Okay, this is liriope. See how much it looks like grass? Okay. And then there's also these little fellers in here. This is Podium. Its common name is bishop's weed. This is the variegated kind. At least it's variegated. Because the greens, the original is just green, and it's useless. It's just absolutely, it just grows
Tell
right
us how
up.
you really feel.
No, I've been to therapy. Okay, so someone brought these in to share, and these two together are just about indestructible. Yeah. I don't like liriope unless it's variegated, but even variegated varieties of things tend to be a little less vigorous, which is great sometimes. But this stuff, it just looks like grass.
Just looks like grass. Okay.
Why would you do that? Okay, so this guy here, this little Podium, this bishop's weed, I wouldn't recommend that either, because while it's pretty right now in the spring, it will get to summer and then it's not so pretty. If it's a little too humid, it'll melt out. All the little leaves edges will turn brown, and it puts on these stinky flowers, and it just looks terrible. And you're thinking, what happened to that? It looks like you poured bleach on them. I was like, it was so pretty. Well, it's not, because it's a jerk. You know, this is the thing. Weeding and garden jerks.
Garden jerks.
No,
So
no,
what is this
I'm
for?
disagreeing.
Okay, I was hoping.
Real quickly.
Can you
every
please share some
plant-
redeeming qualities?
Every plant has a purpose.
Okay.
And a place. And every person has an opinion. And
nostrils, yes.
each landscape can benefit from, different kinds of plant material. What she's saying is that these are aggressive and they can be invasive. But if you have an area that's contained and you want a durable, hardy plant, this might be just the right thing. In the spring, you can mow it off. It does go through the winter. It does have a little purplish white flower. I have used it as a ground cover effectively in an area around my pond, and I have enjoyed it.
Because it doesn't get tall like grass does.
Right, and it doesn't escape. It hasn't yet.
And it likes hot, dry.
Yeah,
Sure.
It does.
Does anyone, do any of you have this growing?
I wouldn't in my life. No,
I
never.
couldn't. I have.
Oh, it does.
I have the snow on the mountain growing, and
Yeah.
I don't hate it as much as Marty does. I mean, from time to time, it may not look its best, but where I have it, like what Ella's saying, it's a spot that I was
Yeah.
having a tough time with, and it's where I can kind of rein it in effectively without it being too bad of a bully.
And you can string trim the top of it, and it'll flush back out again quite nicely.
Usually you have to. And actually, if it's in shade or partial shade, it doesn't tend to melt out or rot out as quickly as it when it's in sun. Now, the liriope, even a piece that big is plenty. So if you had a place that you wanted to put this, which I never will, but if you do,
If you missed that the first few times.
okay, so you can see where the crown is on these plants, and then it's like turf. It really is. And the common name is lily turf because it sends up that little flower. So you can cut these in quite small pieces, and they will fill in pretty quickly.
And
Clip
it
through
grows, it
there.
thrives in poor conditions? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yeah. So I cut through. There's a little bit of a thicker white root there. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. But these are if they have a little root on them at all, they will go to town.
Take off.
Yeah, they will. they will. So
All right, thank you, ma'am, for telling us how much you hate those two plants.
I was just, you know,
Doing your part.
Yeah.
Doing your part. All right,
'cause
so
I would encourage you to plant like anything else.
all right, Jen, you've got some cuttings that you picked up.
Yeah, well, I brought them.
Oh, you brought these. I'm sorry.
I brought some houseplant cuttings. This is Pothos Marble Queen. It was just starting to color up on this particular branch, but and this is Philodendron called Neon. It's kind of a limey green. And these are two really easy to start from cuttings houseplants that you can root in water. I remember my mom having something like this in a vase in the kitchen pretty much my entire childhood. So you could also just plant this in some shallow potting soil as well. But when you root them, it will root off of these are called nodes where the leaf attaches. You can set them in water. I would put them in soil once you get an inch or two of root, because the roots that develop in water are slightly different than what develops in soil. If you're looking for cuttings or picking up cuttings at something like this, you want to make sure that you have nodes with whatever plant material you're picking up. I've seen some stuff online where people are all excited that they got their cutting and it's just a leaf with no node, and that's never going to do anything no matter what you do to it. So keep that in mind. Same thing with this philodendron. It will root in water. But this actually has enough roots just growing in air. I would go ahead and pot that up, and it should grow very vigorously. It doesn't. Both of these can tolerate medium to lowish light indoors. I had them under some lights this winter, and that's why I had a whole basket of cuttings to share at the plant swap, because they really liked having just a little bit of a light, an LED plant light on them this winter. The other thing I brought is a succulent that I've brought on the show before. This is the Lifesaver Plant, and it has a flower that looks like a red lifesaver. It's grown really well in my bathroom window, but it is a succulent. So the difference with these is that when you break it off, you want that cut end to dry off a little bit before you attempt to plant it, so that, because there's so much water in these, that otherwise it will just rot away. So once this is dry, a couple days, just stick that end in some cactus mix and water it, but don't get carried away. You can let it dry out, and it roots pretty readily. I was pretty impressed with how many cuttings I brought of this one as well. But it's a really neat flower, and my kids are fascinated with it because it does look like a piece of candy, and it's just something that people will ask you, well, what is that? And every time I've brought it on the show, people have been pretty amazed by it, but it's very easy to grow, like a lot of succulents are.
Awesome. And you've got your labels so organized. I love it.
I was being the teacher in me coming out. I had all my labels for all my cuttings, because can I say this now? I mean, I've come to plant swaps and plant sales and taken home things that I thought I knew what it was, or I wasn't quite sure, and planted it. Now these are house plants, but I've planted stuff out in my garden that I've really regretted because I just thought it looked interesting at a plant sale. And probably the worst thing I ever planted was a campanula. Glomerata was and it took me.
I was aware.
It took me 8 years to get rid of it.
Oh my gosh!
Because it just goes everywhere, and it was recommended to me that it had a blue flower, and I have an orange and blue Illini garden, and you should plant this one, Jennifer. And I should know better, right? Because I supposedly have all the education, but that doesn't mean I did the research before I planted it. So do as I say and do the research before, because I seriously thought I was just tearing my hair out to get rid of it, because it just spreads by runners, and it came up everywhere, and I literally had a little cup of Roundup and a paintbrush, and I went in and I painted it everywhere I saw little sprouts coming up, and that's how I finally got rid of it.
That's dedication.
That's frustration.
From frustration breeds
I
dedication.
must win. It's a plant, for crying in the beer. I've got to win.
That segues into our next topic. We've had people stopping by asking questions of you, and so what tips do you have for folks when they get things at a plant swap, or even honestly at a plant store? You still need to sort of do your due diligence to make sure you're not bringing things home. So I'd just like to have some open discussion about some tips that you would give to people as they're bringing things home from events like this. And feel free, anybody who's got something.
Well, Karen just had a good idea about when she brings a plant home, show them your cup.
Well, this is just something for using at home, not anything with the plant. But in the past, whenever I'd have a bag of soil or compost that I'd be using to pot up something or to use in the garden, I would always use a empty pot. Well, some of those pots aren't so sturdy anymore, and it would just collapse. So I found that using a plastic mug with a sturdy handle really works well as a cheap scoop.
Nice.
So,
Good idea.
and I got this, and I've got one. So once again, I'm giving things away at the swap today, and I'm giving it to my friend for using in her bag of soil.
And when I've used the pot, there's been a hole in the bottom, and some of the soil falls out. So I thought this was just excellent. And mine, when I take mine home, I think we had talked about this before. I use the plastic mini blinds. I did say Venetian blinds, but that would date me. And a pencil to mark. And then as well as I punch the hole and write the name, I'll write green zebra and put it on my tomato cage. So I've really liked that. But I think we talked a little bit about the aphids. And a woman asked us about some whitefly problems, and she was saying that they were eating her plants. And so it's important to identify the insect that you suspect being the problem, because whiteflies are sap feeders, so they would not make any holes in the leaf. Even though she saw all these little gnats, she thought that might be what it was. So it's real important to be able to identify it. And now with a smartphone, taking pictures, and there's a lot of different kinds of apps that can help you identify plants and also identify pests as well. But that would have, if we asked for pictures, she didn't happen to have any, but we did discuss some organic options for insect control. And the best thing, I think, is scouting. So when we visited the swap, Karen and I, we just kind of walked around and looked first to see, oh, what might be here and what looks good, and took a couple passes. And I think that's the thing to do. And that's the thing to do in your own garden. Enjoy your garden and really take a look and notice things about it. When does it bloom? Karen had that pulmonaria, and because it flowers, she gets seedlings. And that's wonderful.
Awesome. All right, Marty, what about you? Tips for bringing home new plant babies?
I will also point out on this, if you're not familiar with pulmonaria, these are not the blooms, okay? These are the past. The petals have fallen now. When these bloom, the buds are blue and the flowers open pink or purple, or is it the other way around?
Not sure.
Depends on the variety. Some of them are light white,
some of them are white,
bluish, some are pinkish.
But they're a charming little flower. They really are nice. Yeah, there are some that are white. I forgot about that. So yeah, if I would bring a plant home, I try to isolate it from my other plants.
Now, how long do you leave them separate, or how long do you keep them
I
separated?
want to sit it for a couple weeks,
Okay.
maybe.
A good while yet to see if there's any crawlers or critters or.
We gotta share the dining room table with them because it's right in the window. But everybody else is in the living room, and I don't want to take something in there that I'm going to regret later.
Well, you're speaking of houseplants, though, but
I
for your garden, or like shrubs or perennials or ground covers or whatever, you don't really isolate them, do you?
No.
Okay.
Those go straight
You're
out.
talking about,
don't.
yes,
Yeah, I
into
was
your
talking about
house.
house
I would
Gotcha.
agree with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but not garden plants. Yeah. Well, like Ella was saying, she noticed that there was an aphid or two on here. But as she said, usually when you're outside, it's a jungle out there, and something's going to come along and eat those guys. And ordinarily, you're not going to have to expend a lot of effort. It's predators will find them, and that is amazing to me. How can those little
Have food will come, right?
I mean, it's incredible.
They'll
It's an
find you.
amazing ecosystem. It's incredible. But yeah, other things. If you're not going to plant them the day you get them, which I never do. Usually, I sit them in the shade. Don't just chunk them out on the porch and let the sun burn them to a crisp, or just inside the garage or by the window or something. Yeah, keep them damp. If they're a cutting like this, I will try to plug this in, but even if I don't get a chance to, I put some water on it and then maybe even a large, if you've got like a milk crate or vegetables these days come in big plastic crates, and I get them from a friend of mine with a restaurant. They are great for keeping rabbits and birds and squirrels off of your small crops. And you can also do that with transplants. You can put them in, and they have holes in them, but they're
You
black
just flip 'em?
plastic.
You just flip
I just
them
turn
over?
them upside down because they allow light, but they cut it down a little bit. It's a little bit of a shade, and they allow water, but it doesn't beat on them. You know, so just a little help. You know, just it's if it's windy or if it's really sunny or hot, it just kind of helps them go. Whoo, that
Thanks
was a
for
lot.
that,
You know,
yes.
I moved 15 miles. I had no idea. So.
Okay. All right. Jen, what about you?
I would say the isolation idea, I did see something a couple years ago in a garden that I thought was pretty ingenious. If you don't really know how a plant's going to behave in your garden, this person had a separate bed that they just they called it their trial bed. They would put stuff out there and just kind of see if something was particularly aggressive or just didn't do really well. They weren't sure what it was, and I just thought that having something like that would have saved me a lot of heartache in my own garden. And also just pay attention when you're shopping. Don't be afraid to look underneath leaves and look at the stem and look for pests and problems that could be there just before you bring it home, and be cautious when there's free plants, because that's how I've brought home some really awful problems that I didn't realize were there. So just don't be afraid to say no to plants, even when you're with all your enabling friends that say you really need more. It can be hard. You can be strong.
Or can you?
Or can you? I don't know.
But just use good judgment, check under the leaves, and any other tips there for many of you ladies about what to do when you get your new plants home?
Well, I think one important thing that happened to me is I would just kind of see if it's actually rooted, because I do know that I bought this really unique plant, or so I thought, and when I got home there were no roots. It was like they had just made a cutting, and it was so disappointing. It really was. But again, if you are going to participate in these kinds of activities, like Karen had mentioned, you want to plan ahead and pot them up ahead of time, and make sure that you are giving a well-labeled quality product, because again, the plants that show up are the plants that are naturally aggressive, and you have too many, and so you're willing to share those, you know. So yeah, I think that's something important, is that, you know, give as good as you get.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you ladies for coming out and answering questions, and we're going to interview some of the organizers and see what plants we can get our hands on. Hey, we are here at Sola Gratia Farms for the second annual CU Plant Swap, and things are looking pretty busy around here. And if you've noticed, we're joined now by Erin Lippis from our fundraising department, and so it's time to raise some money, right?
It is. We are in our spring fund drive mode. So if you're watching today, Mid-American Gardener is your show. You would really like to support it. We would love to hear from you tonight. 217-244-9455 is the number to call, or go online at willgive.org. If you have your phone in front of you, your laptop, it's super easy. Make your donation, whatever amount works for you. And we thank you so much for your support tonight. I am super happy to be out. It's a gorgeous day today. It's windy, but it's beautiful.
Sun is shining.
Sun is shining. It's great to be outside and around some other folks and learning about plants today.
Yes.
This is my first remote out for our fund drive, which is super fun for me. I know you guys have been doing remotes, but this is my first time.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So you guys, Mid-American Gardener is a show pretty much all about education, which is very appropriate, because WILL-TV that's one of our core mission, parts of our mission, and one of the things that we really are proud about, and we value education so much. And so I think Mid-American Gardener is a perfect show to kind of just show what WIL TV can give to the community.
Absolutely.
You guys educate. I know everybody knows I'm a horrible gardener.
We're going to change that.
Okay.
We're going to change that.
I accidentally kill plants. I don't mean to. But it's just not my thing. But I can watch Mid-American Gardener and learn all about different kinds of plants.
Absolutely, and it's so cool because we've got entomologists, we've got horticulturalists, we've got people who this is their life's work. So the educational component is really important, but what I also love is it's applicable. So we've got these scientists on our show who can, I don't want to say dumb it down, but help us understand what to do, and then we can literally go outside and apply that knowledge directly from them. So this is a huge example of that educational component and how we're improving people's lives by teaching them how to grow plants and flowers and veggies and fruits in their own yard.
Yeah, I love it. You put it into lay people terms. Lay people terms, and it makes it easy for those of us who aren't very good about gardening to go out, and we feel it's something that we can do. It's accessible to us.
Absolutely.
And we can do that.
Yes.
So we hope that you are enjoying Mid-American Gardener tonight and that you would like to donate. Again, we're in the middle of our spring fund drive. Give us a call at 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And we're talking about education, and that's one of our core components at WILL. And at the beginning of the pandemic, our education team really just pivoted quickly and adjusted and adapted, put all kinds of educational resources online for teachers and students who couldn't be in school at that time. So we made sure those kids in our community got their education and got resources to help them through the beginning parts of that. And all of that was free and accessible to everyone in the community. Anyone who went online and searched for that could find it and use it. And it's free because people like you make donations to WILL to support our programming, to support our educational resources. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. Now, we mentioned we're doing like a remote segment out here. That's kind of new for Mid-American Gardener, isn't it?
So the pandemic, shut down the studio. We're still not able to get into the studio if you've been watching the Zoom shows at home. But this sort of forced us to get creative and figure out how can we still connect with people, how can we still tell great garden stories and still give instruction and teach people things without the studio. And so we've done a lot of field shows, we've done a lot of field segments, and it's been amazing. Days like today where we can get out and do things out in the community. If you remember, we made maple syrup at Ella's house. We did some plantings with Jennifer Nelson and Jennifer Fishburne a couple weeks ago. So the pandemic really pushed us outside of the box to get creative and really truly get out and get our hands dirty, which is what we should have been doing anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Starting show. Let's do that. Yes. So when you give today, we do have a couple of thank you gifts that you can choose when you make that donation. Tanisha's going to model them for us here. That is our WILL Mid-American Gardener mug that she is holding, and for a donation of $84 annually or $7 a month as a sustaining member, you can choose that as your thank you gift. She's also got the Midwest Native Plant Primer, which is kind of like an encyclopedia of native Illinois plants.
Yes.
We flip through it. It's very comprehensive, and that can be yours too for a donation of $120 annually or $10 a month as a sustaining member. If you like them both, you can make a donation of $180 or $15 a month as a sustainer and get them both. So that is yours. When you make a donation, you can choose from these things. Or I'm modeling my favorite thing, the WILL hoodie, which for $150 annually, which I think is I'm not good at math, $12.50 I think, as a sustainer, you can choose one of 2 designed hoodies. They're fantastic and I love them.
Perfect for today, right?
Oh my gosh,
where there's
so
a little chill, but it's not cold.
It's got a hood, it's got a pocket.
Yes.
I put my dog's treats in here. We go on walks.
There you
and
go.
My keys, super easy. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org to make your donation. Thank you so much for tuning in today and joining us for Mid-American Gardener and learning about all these new great plants that you maybe didn't know about. Learning how to coax your plants through the winter. It felt like a very long winter.
It did feel like a long winter. And this is a great book too. Native plants have become really popular among people who don't want to do a lot of gardening. So this is your ticket right here to lazy gardening, as I call it.
All right, give us a call tonight, 217-244-9455 or go online at willgive.org. Thank you so much for tuning in and thanks for your donation.
And we're going to be checking in with you a little bit later.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Erin. We're going to check back with you in a few minutes. And speaking of native plants, we had a chance to visit a lady's garden and yard that was absolutely full of them. Judy Seib lives in Champaign, and DJ and I had a chance to check out her yard, and we're going to show you on this edition of Other People's Garden. On this edition of Other People's Gardens, we are joined with Judy Seib of the University of Illinois, and she is going to walk us through her beautiful yard and garden. And also, if you've got some perennials that are thriving and ready to divide, Judy's going to show us how to do that. So we're going to start out with some Spiderwort, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Tell us a little bit about the plant and then where you're going to be moving it to.
Okay. Well, Spiderwort's one of my favorite plants. It's a native perennial plant that's the butterflies and bees and hummingbirds like it. And this is it right here. And it's got pretty little flowers, and it'll bloom for about 2 months, which is a good amount of time for a perennial.
Now this is the one that you were telling me that opens in the morning?
Right. It's only open for the mornings. It's getting ready. A lot of them have closed up already. It doesn't like the hot sun afternoon. So usually by 11 o'clock in the morning, if it's sunny, they'll be closed. If it's cloudy all day, they'll stay open. So it's a really pretty plant. And I had a couple of them come up as volunteers right here.
And they're out.
And they're even blooming. And I thought I'd dig one of those up. And it's all closed up now. Okay, but I thought I'd dig one of those up and we could see the root structure. You can also dig from the big clumps.
Now, how long has this mature patch? How long have you had these?
I've had these for probably 3, maybe 4 years.
Oh, wow.
No more than 4 years.
So that's really grown.
So, yeah, it has filled in. But that's just more plants to give away and scatter.
Right.
So
are these fairly easy to maintain?
These are very easy to maintain. There's really nothing to do to them. If we don't get enough rain by mid-year, I might end up watering them. This is fresh dill. So, and this is a little milkweed plant.
A bonus.
So there's all kinds of things, but I'll show you. Let's get down to get rid of some of this because we don't need it.
Now, what is it about this plant that you like?
I like that it's a perennial because I like things that come back every year, things that flower nicely. I get up in the morning and I come out and the first thing I look at are these flowers, and when they're open in the early morning, they are so beautiful. So this has a nice root structure, and we'll take this to the backyard. I've got a spot where I want to put it.
Okay, so you've got your hole dug, and I found it interesting that you said you water the hole before you plant.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about
absolutely.
that.
Even though we did have some rain, I always water the hole because that way the water's all the way down to the roots and the plant can get settled in really well. So I can put the dirt all around it. So I'm putting this in from the front yard to the backyard. I don't have a whole lot of open spots anymore.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah. But I love giving away plants, and people like to get this plant.
I think I'm going to start watering the hole. Like most people, I always dig the hole, put the plant in, and then water it all in, but I really like this method.
You want to do it this way.
I like this.
Matter of fact, I'm going to add some more water right now because I want that dirt to settle all around the roots. And I'll give it some more water. And it's off to a good start now because I know it's wet all the way down, foot down to the roots. So even if I transplant a little plant, I dig that hole and I put a whole cup of water in it. If the water goes down quickly, you need to keep filling the hole. But like I say, the ground's a little bit wet from the rain that we had. But always water the hole.
Okay.
A lot of these plants I took from the front yard and brought them back here. So it's free plants. And this is the common milkweed, which the insects love, especially once it's going to flower. And the monarch butterfly caterpillars have to have that to survive. So I've had quite a bit of it coming up, but it'll be used for food for the caterpillars. And this is penstamen, and it makes a very pretty flower by a little bit more into the summer. And once again, they were coming up in the front yard, and I brought them back here to fill in, and I do give a lot of them away. So that's the idea. And this is the blazing Prairie star plant, and this will get very tall. This will get 7 feet tall and has a beautiful spike of purple flowers on the top of it. And it's kind of known as Jewel of the Prairie.
Ooh.
So it's a wonderful plant.
This is these look like the same, but this foliage is different.
It is. This is a different type of penstamen, and it, once again, I bought one plant last year, and then this spring about 4 or 5 came up, and I divided them and gave them away.
I bet a lot of
So,
people are
brought
going
one
through
back
that
here.
this year. That put in flowers last year, and now they've got big patches like this that have come up. So everyone's looking to divide and share and relocate some of their flowers. Well, thank you
Yes.
for opening your home and letting us come and visit.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
And we're back with Erin Lippitz here at Sola Gratia Farms at the 2nd annual See You Plant Swap. Things are still growing strong. Lots of plant folks here. And we're going to get you on board. Erin kills plants, but I'm telling you, we are going to get her. We're going to turn her into a See You plant person by the end
I
of
did
this.
not inherit my grandmother's green thumb at all. It skips the generation apparently.
Oh, that's how that works. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I am here today, I'm joining Tanisha and the Mid-American Gardener panelists to just talk about our Spring Fund Drive, because we are here asking you to help support our programming on WILL. If you are watching tonight and it's a good time for you to make a donation, I hope you give us a call at 217-244-9455 or go online at willgive.org. We are a public media station, so that means we are viewer supported. So our viewers, our donors, are still our biggest part of our funding puzzle or pie, if you will. Your donations help make all of the programming that you see on WIL possible. We get some money, we get some help from the government, but it by no means is our biggest funding piece. Our donors are that, and your donations truly do make Mid-American Gardener possible. It makes Tanisha's job a lot easier when she can come out and she knows that she has a program that the donors are enjoying and that they're donating to support. Give us a call at 217-244-9455. And your donation makes this programming free. And we said this a little bit earlier. It's free and accessible to the entire community at any time you want it, because donors like you donate and make that kid in a rural community who's maybe never been to a theater, who's maybe never heard a live orchestra perform. Oftentimes our programming, PBS, WIL TV, is that child's first introduction to things like that, to ballet, to Itzhak Perlman playing the violin. I mean, PBS, my home station, was my first foray into Broadway musicals, and I loved sitting there as a kid and watching them. My mom would check our listings and make sure that she knew when it was rerunning and pop a tape in and record it for us so we could watch it over and over and over again. And that's what we can do, and you make that possible. You make that education and that introduction for a child to new things possible. And that kid might be turning on the station right now and seeing Tanisha talking about plants and educating them about native Illinois plants, which is the thing to talk about right now.
That is. And you know, when you were mentioning people coming on board and people joining the programs and getting their education from there, we have seen a huge increase in viewership for Mid-American Gardener. So we know the year of the pandemic was a huge year for gardeners.
Right.
We know a lot of people were tuning into the show for the first time to say, I bought all this stuff, now how do I take care of it? So we are absolutely sometimes that first introduction to culture, as you mentioned, and gardening and some of the other things that we offer. And the viewers, that's the component. That's how you help. That's how you continue these programs and make it possible for us to come out and do the things that we do.
That's right. And I know a lot of people, when we were stuck inside for the first part of the pandemic, television was one of the things that we could do. And I watched a lot of WILL TV. And Passport is one of those benefits that you can get as a donor to WILL. $60 annually or $5 a month as a sustainer, and you get access to thousands of hours of extra programming. This is programming that's not available to just a regular viewer just watching the programming on their television or on their computer or on the app. It's extra. You can watch, I watched the whole season of Atlantic Crossing in one go because I'm a donor and I have access to Passport, and it was all there before it aired. I got to see it before some of you guys did. It's a good show. $60 a month or $5 annually. as a sustainer. Now, I mentioned sustainer a few times. That is someone who donates monthly on a regular basis. You set up how much you want to donate every month, and it's that way for as long as you want it to be.
You don't even have to think about it.
You don't have to think about it. You can kind of set it and forget about it, and that helps us save some money because we don't have to send you a reminder every year to renew. So we don't have paper printing, we don't have mailing, and you know your membership is always up to date, and your support of WILL is always up to date. If you would like to donate to Mid-American Gardener, to help Mid-America, not just to the show, you're donating to everything that we produce here at WILL and the PBS, BBC, and NPR programming that we broadcast. You can give us a call, 217-244-9455, or online at willgive.org. Tanisha is holding some great thank you gifts that we have.
Got some giveaways here.
Yes, so the mug for a donation of $84 or $77 a month as a sustainer. Wow, that was difficult for me to get out. You can have that really nice Mid-American Gardener mug. It looks like a little flower pot, super cute. The Midwest Native Plant Primer for a donation of $120 a month, or $120 annually, or $10 a month as a sustainer. It's a great kind of encyclopedia of all kinds of Illinois native plants, which is something that's really good to look through and figure out when you're planting your garden, because we do want to support our native flora, and we want the bees and the butterflies to come back to our gardens, and
Look
we
at
can
you
do that.
being a gardener.
Well,
You did really good.
I try. I have a perennial garden. It does. I don't have to do anything, which is really great.
Then there you go.
I should
That's how you
choose
get
that as
one of
my
those.
thank you gift. That's a great gift to get for your donation. And if you would like both of those, your thank you gift, you can get a combo, $180 annually or $15 a month as a sustaining member. Those are your gifts. We also have a really cute tote bag, which we don't have a sample of, I'm sorry, but it's got the 1920s station van on it, a nice canvas tote. You can put all these in it, put your new plants in there, get to your garden, turn on Mid-American Gardener,
There you
learn
go.
about plants.
There you go.
Give us a call, 217-244-9455, or online at willgive.org.
All right, thanks, Erin. We'll check back in with you. All right, we're now joined by Lauren Quinn, who is the organizer of the plant swap, and you're actually the brainchild behind CU Plant People, right?
Yes, that's
So
right.
tell us a little bit about you and the background of the plant group and just kind of how it started.
Yeah, so last year, a few months earlier than this, and last year, February 2020, before the pandemic, I hosted a plant swap in the basement of the Urbana Free Library, just because I had started to get really into plants and I wanted to meet other people who also were into plants. And so a bunch of people came out to that, and right after that I started a Facebook group called CU Plant People. And from that time to now, we've gotten about 3,000 members.
Wow.
And so people are really excited about plants in this community and really all around the world right now. It was a big hobby for the pandemic for a lot
I was
of
just
people.
going to ask if you think the pandemic played a big
Oh,
role
yeah.
in the uptick in your members.
For sure, yes.
Because
Definitely.
we couldn't go anywhere,
Right.
so everybody was at home taking care of their plants.
That's right,
Did
yep.
you ever anticipate that the group would be this active?
I guess I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
And I am part of a number of other Facebook groups for plants, and they're all very active too. So
Nice.
I'm really happy though to see that there are that many people within our community who are as into it as we are.
So tell us about today.
Yeah.
What did you see? What things did you learn? Was the flow of people? Talk a little bit about just how the day went from an organization perspective.
Yeah, it was great. It always starts off a little bit, it's hard to predict what's going to happen because, I put it out on Facebook as a Facebook event, and, it's hard to gauge exactly how many people are going to come. So we didn't know how many tables to put out and that kind of thing, but we figured that out. And then, we had a whole lot of people come right at first. Everybody sort of milling around with their things and trying to figure out how it was working, one-to-one swaps or sort of high-value swaps. And then a lot of things that were just free, and we were able to just move things out. So it was great in terms of the turnout. We had lots of folks and some cool things on the tables for sure. I ended up with a nice wish list plant that I'd been eyeing for a while, which I'm happy about.
And you didn't have to spend for it, so
Right.
that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Awesome. Any feedback from folks that came today? Were they grateful to be able to just kind of get out and be around others again? What kind of feedback
Yes,
did you hear?
I definitely heard that. that there was, you know, people were in and out, didn't necessarily talk to a lot of people, but it was still good to be out in a group. And then just a lot of people who are really thankful to be, you know, able to be around like-minded folks today.
All right. And so what's next for the group? Any other events on the horizon? Do you see this becoming something that is, you know, again, an annual event?
Yeah, I'd like to. For sure, annual. Initially, when I first did the one last year, I thought it would be sort of a seasonal thing. We'd do another couple throughout that year, but of course 2020 was what it was, and we did not do that, which is where the group sort of took up the slack, where, you know, we didn't do a large event where we were doing a lot of swaps, but it's nice in the group you can set up a swap where with someone else, and they can just come to your porch and do a swap on your porch, and that's that. But anyway, so that took the place of those in-person swaps last year. But this year we might maybe do another one in the fall.
Okay.
But for sure, I like the at least annual for now. So
Awesome. Well, thank you for putting this together.
Yeah,
Everything was
fun.
really great. And tell folks where they can find CU Plant People.
It's on Facebook. Just search CU Plant People, and we're there. We do ask a couple of required membership questions, which we need to make sure that you're going to follow the rules and everything.
Sure.
Because it is a really nice place, and people are just lovely to one another, and so we want to keep that vibe going.
It is.
So.
Even some of our panelists even participate.
Oh, nice.
I see them in there answering some of the questions
cool.
of folks, and
Yeah.
so it's really nice. There's always a lot of dialogue going on with
Yeah.
questions, and every once in a while I see one of our panelists in there
Cool.
helping out. So anyway, thank you so much for putting this together,
You're so
and we will see you at the next event.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
And we are still at the CU Plant Swap here at Solar Gradia Farms, joined by the lovely Erin Lippitz from fundraising. And if you have not been watching, we've been talking about how to turn her into a gardener. Currently she kills everything, but we're going to find her a plant that she cannot kill. And we might find one of those today.
Does it exist?
There might be.
Because I killed a cactus once. You don't even really need, they don't need water
We'll talk
that
to the
often.
panelists.
Okay.
The panelists are here answering
That's true.
questions, so we can get you a special appointment and figure out what we can do.
Like, help this woman. She kills plants.
So what brings you out today on this lovely Saturday?
Yes, it's gorgeous, and I'm very happy to be out here today with you guys, getting some fresh air, seeing all these amazing plants going, like all this stuff going on behind us. It's lots of people here, a lot of hustle and bustle.
Isn't it nice to be around people again?
It is really nice. I'm extremely happy to be out here. But we are going, WILL is going into our fund drive. This is the end of our fiscal year. And if you haven't been watching us, if you haven't experienced any of our programming over the past year, I'm glad you're tuning in now, and you're here with Tanisha and you're learning a little bit about gardening. But we've been talking about everything that WIL has done for the community in terms of education and information and news and entertainment and new experiences and new exposure to things like plants or theater or dance. And over the past year, when everybody was trapped inside and schools were shut down and we couldn't really get out and see one another, I think we kind of realized just how important public media is, because it is a free service that is offered to everyone and accessible to everyone in the community. And we can do that because you have made a donation. If you would like to make a donation today to continue helping make that possible, the number is 217-244-9455, or go online at willgive.org. It's really easy to do. And help make Mid-American Gardener, like a kid turning on Mid-American Gardener and learns about new plants and how not to kill a cactus. I didn't know you could do that.
Apparently you can.
Apparently you can. But your donation today, your donation is an investment in this station. It's an investment in your community. It's an investment in news and information. And your donation today, your gift today, helps make our regional news possible. Our journalists and our reporters in the newsroom reporting on everything that's important to you, everything that you rely on. And you're helping Tanisha's role here expand just a little bit.
That's
so you
right.
want to, I think it's been announced, but you want
It
to tell
has.
everybody
Yes,
about
yes,
your new
sure.
role?
So I've kind of expanded my role at WILL, and I'm into the news department as well, which is my background. Many of you know that I used to work at WCIA, and then I started hosting Mid-American Gardener in 2018, and then March of this year expanded that role to the news team. So I'm really excited to be reporting on environmental stories, which couldn't have worked out any better because that's kind of who I am as a person. And so it lends itself naturally. So I've been, DJ and I, who we work on Mid-American Gardener together, we're also a reporting team together. So we've been talking about bald eagles. We're going to be doing things with the history of coal and invasive plants. So stay tuned for that. But just really excited to join the team and expand that role. And I wanted to also say, early in the pandemic, when schools were closed, we lived off PBS Kids.
Yeah.
Lived off PBS Kids.
I think a lot of families
It was
did.
a lifesaver. So big shout out to that because of the teaching tools and the materials that we could use. I'm proof that that was a lifesaver for sure.
Thank you for mentioning that. That was a very important resource.
Yes.
And shout out again to our education team that put all kinds of additional resources online for teachers and students. So we're raising money today because WILL is forward funded. So what that means is that the money we raise this year is used for next year. So it helps us better plan for the future of the station and the future of programming because we know how much we have to spend. We never overspend because we already have it. So your donation helps us plan much better for future programs, for future roles for Tanisha, for reporting that she can bring to you. Give us a call today at 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. Become a sustaining member. Now that's a donor who gives every month regularly. You go online and get it set up. You pick an amount that you want to donate that works for you, and you set it and you forget about it. And your donation renews every single month, as does our planning. I mean, because your donation is something that we can count on, and we look at that and we say, we know we're going to have this donation, so we know we can plan for this program or this expansion of someone's role at WILL. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. We have some thank you gifts here. You were talking about invasive species. If you want to learn about native species, you can get the Midwest Native Plant Primer, and that is, I'm going to get my cheat sheet out here, $120 a month. $10 a month, $120 annually donation, and you can pick that as your thank you gift. And we have the cute mug that looks like a little terracotta planter, $84 annually, $7 a month as a sustaining member, and you can get that cute mug. Or the hoodie that I'm modeling today, which is not kind of like our special thing for Mid-American Gardener, but it's a really great shirt. You can get that $150 annual donation, $12.50 a month as a sustainer. They come in 2 different kinds. They're gray, all kinds of sizes. So make your donation today, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. Your gift makes a difference. We count on our donors to help us weather things like the pandemic. When donations were down and corporate support was down, you helped us get through that. We're forever grateful to you. If you can donate now, if it's not a good time for you, don't worry about it. Just keep watching. We'll be here. We'll be here for you every time you turn on WIL TV or our radio stations. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org.
Thank you. Thanks, Erin. And we want to say thanks to Lauren Quinn for organizing the event, and to Solo Gratia for hosting, and to our panelists who came out today to answer questions. And we hope to be out in the field doing stories like this throughout the summer. So if you've got an idea or a garden that you'd like to show off, please let us know. Email us at yourgarden@gmail.com, or you can look us up on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Mid-American Gardener. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.